Thanks for joining me this week on PowerTalk. I'm your host, Chris Versace, editor of the investment newsletter Power Trend Profits. If you're a new listener to PowerTalk, this is the place where I bring you my one-on-one conversations with CEOs of public and private companies, as well as other key people in business, politics, or wherever else might be impacting the stock market and our investing decisions. If you've been here before, welcome back. As you know, my goal with PowerTalk is to let you listen in on some of the conversations I'm having each and every week to take you behind the scenes and in the know. We all know that the economy remains challenging. We just look around us and we see this. We look at people who are out of work, struggling to make ends meet while food and gas prices climb. Because it's an employer's market out there, wages are stagnant, and this means consumers have to spend carefully. I recently talked about all this with Michael D. Brown, author of Fresh Passion, Get a Brand, or Die a Generic. Michael pointed out that despite the tepid recovery, you continue to see people line up at certain companies and certain vendors, like Starbucks, for example, companies that offer what he calls an experience rather than just a simple cup of coffee. For just coffee, you can go to Dunkin' Donuts, McDonald's, or even Panera. But despite those companies coming on strong in the coffee market, no one ever balks at paying at Starbucks. Compare that to what you hear from people when a gallon of gas goes up just a nickel. Michael and I also talk about how companies are using the internet and social media to become more creative in communicating with customers. For example, Nordstrom's is closely working with Pinterest as part of its fully baked brand building effort to offer a digital catalog of products. Another example is how Amazon is using its myhabit.com property to boost sales by removing the pain points of paying for shipping and paying for return shipping if you have to do that. It's things like this that help make a company's brand unique and help it stand out. That's really important in a tough economy like we're going through now. On top of all that, Michael also shares his 6.5 steps, that's 6.5 steps, for brand building that work for big companies, small companies, and they'll even work for you. If you want more than payphone skills in a smartphone world, my advice is listen up to this edition of Power Talk. Welcome back to Power Talk, everybody. If you're like me, a regular consumer, or you're a high-profile business partner, you know that there's a lot being thrown at you. And I mean, it could be as simple as walking down the grocery store and looking at the amount of butter, different types, milk, God forbid. Is it soy? Is it almond? Is it regular, non-fat, low-fat? What have you. And don't even get me started on going down the cookie aisle. Or if you're a business person and you're looking at how you're being inundated, not only through email, but through Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, what have you, you know as well as I do that it gets harder and harder to sift through all this information. And that's why brand, be it a company, a product, or a person, is increasingly important today. And I'm very excited today because we have Michael Brown, author of the new book, Fresh Passion, Get a Brand, or Die a Generic, with us today on Power Talk. I'm sure you've seen Michael's stuff around before. He has come up with an interesting program, and I'm sure we'll talk about it. 6.5 fresh steps to world-class customer service. And Michael should know all about customer service because he's an authority on it, and he's worked with clients such as Marriott, Wendy's, Capital One, British Petroleum, Macaroni Grill, and hundreds of others. Michael, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here today, Chris.
So, Michael, we're going to have a lot to talk about, and I'm going to ask you, some obvious questions and some not so obvious questions. But let's just, delve right into it. Since you're the authority on customer service, in your mind, what is customer service? Because I know, it can be the little things such as eating at a Red Robin and having a great experience from the person who serves you, or even, going on a flight, be it, any one of the major airlines and having a great experience from, buying your ticket through checking in, getting on the plane, the flight, the whole nine. So from your perspective, what is customer service?
Customer service is about an experience and how you deliver that experience in a consistent way, how you deliver that experience in every facet of your business, be it online, offline, in person, wherever. what experience are you delivering to that customer, and underneath that experience is what pain are you solving for that customer and how you're solving that pain. People will remember the solutions and what you did for them, but more importantly, they will remember how did that make me feel. That's where customer service comes in, is how do you make them feel? How do you get them to the point that they want to have that feeling again and only want it from you?
Now that's very interesting because I've gone through business school, and there's a lot of talk about I guess what I'll call the mechanics of customer service, how you do it, but you're actually attaching an emotional component to it.
If you think about the last great customer experience you had, oftentimes you didn't think about the price you pay. You didn't think about was it the best product for you. You knew that the experience was good, and you trusted all the other elements of it. When you get to haggling about price, you've lost the experience because now they're myopically focused on this may or may not solve my problem. The experience says we know we have the right solution for you. We're going to deliver it for you. We're going to be consistent, and we're going to be your trusted provider.
Michael, if I didn't know better, I would swear you work at Apple.
I wish I would have bought the stock some years ago. I wouldn't be
Fair
having
enough.
this conversation today with you, I'm sure.
Well, you probably have a lot more time to write a lot more books. That's probably the case. So that's an interesting facet on customer service, and I think about companies when you explain it like that. I think of companies, obviously like Apple, as I was joking, but also American Express and some of the others. So, who, in your view, who gives good experience?
If you look at it, and I'll have to give a disclaimer here, I do have stock in Starbucks, but Starbucks to me, and whether I'm in Daegu, South Korea, or in China, the experience for me is going to take me someplace that's going to make me feel like I'm okay. From the moment I walk through the door and the barista's telling me not what can I get for you, it's what can I get started for you today, because they know it's a journey that I'm going to take you through from the beginning of the coffee until I deliver it to you to make sure it's exactly what you wanted. So that Starbucks is an experience from the time you walk through the door to the time you have your first sip, and it continues once you get home and you look at or when you get in the parking lot, there's going to be a message on your iPhone or whatever gadget you have, and when you get back, they're connecting with you through a conversational experience to say, you stopped by to get a cup of coffee, albeit you paid a little bit more for it, but the experience is not in today. And we can assure you when you come back to one of our 18,000 stores, we're going to continue that experience, and we're going to keep it fresh and relevant. That's what's making Starbucks so much different from everyone else. They have a great experience. They're keeping it fresh and relevant. They could very easily say, we have customers who are paying $6 for a latte, me included. Why stop there? Last month they introduced Tivana, which is now all focused on the tea experience. And having gone there last week, it's an amazing experience. You don't think about price. In fact, I don't remember seeing a price in Tivana.
There's a good reason for that.
Yeah.
Some of those teas. I'm lucky enough where I live outside the D.C. area that there's one or two of them not too far away, and there's some fantastic teas. Don't get me wrong, but buying tea and buying coffee is a very different experience.
So Howard, the CEO there, has realized that experience has to continue to change because the problems that we were dealing with in .com, we were flush with cash. We did not care. We would spend it. Now we're in an economic tsunami. We're very careful now with how we spend our money.
Oh, that's right.
He's saying now, let me give you a more than the coffee. I will give you something to eat while you're here. I'll let you have free Wi-Fi, which you didn't have before, and I'll give you free music, and I'll give you these other things to help offset the $5.61 that you've just paid.
It's funny. I was just reading an article in the Wall Street Journal that talked about Starbucks' move into India. And it's just funny that you talk about the experience because they don't really talk at all when they interview people on the ground in India who are shifting from tea to coffee. The question is not about the price of the coffee or anything else. For them, it's going somewhere, free Wi-Fi, a place to go with people. And to your point, it really talks about the experience of going to a Starbucks.
And they've done quite well with it. I mean, where else can you go and have someone next to you who's selling prepaid legal, somebody next to you is hiring for a six-figure job, someone on the other side has just been terminated from their job, and a college student who's there getting a research paper done, to bring all of that energy in the room and the creativity that happens in the conversation. it's a great experience. He's done well with it, and he continues to refine it.
Well, what's funny about that too, as I think about it, is you take a look at like a Dunkin' Donuts or a McDonald's, who are all trying to figure out, the recipe, if you will, to taking share from Starbucks, and yet it doesn't seem to be working. And I think part of it is that they're not focused on the experience like you're talking about. It's down to price.
And Dunkin' Donuts has been very clear, so as McDonald's, to say that we're going after that Starbucks experience. The thing with the Dunkin' Donuts is you don't want to sit there very long because you don't it doesn't give you that experience, that it doesn't elevate you. It's very hard. It's very cold. We want you to come in, get what you have, and get out. There's nothing comfortable there to sit. Whereas a Starbucks experience has a couch that's similar to what you have at home. So it tells the mind, oh, I can stay here. This is okay.
Okay. So Starbucks is obviously doing it right. Is there anybody else in your view who's really excelling at customer service?
I think if you look at what Amazon has done, it's just amazing. Amazon started, I want to say, I found out about it about a year ago. It's called My Habit, and it's truly a habit-forming addiction.
Okay.
There's a sale that starts at noon, and they're very good brands that you can go on, and there's some advertising that happens before, if it's Versace or some lower-end brands, but the price is going to be fantastic. What Amazon has done is said, we will have no shipping costs. If you don't like the item, you will send it back, postage paid in 21 days. So what it has allowed people to do is to order a lot of stuff into their homes, try it on, figure it out, keep some, send it back, and they don't make a fuss about it, whereas other companies are so hell-bent on shipping that they're running people away.
Well, I go back to what you said earlier about removing pain points, and it sounds as if, I'm going to order this, maybe I won't like it, what you're describing with My Habit, it just removes that barrier.
There's nothing to stop you from ordering it because you're saying, I may or may not like this. Let me get it in my home. And they know that 80% of the people who get it in their homes are not going to send it back. And what they're giving you is, if you said, I don't like it, they'll give you a credit. So now they've kept you in the loop to order it again.
Mm-hmm.
But they've made it just so simple, from the automation to what you see to the conversations that they're having during the week with you, telling you this is what's coming up next. And it puts this rush in your head that, oh, I can't wait to log on at 12 because I know they only have a few of these items and it's going to go away. Guilt is another one who started the same thing, and I don't know if you remember when Starbucks started this $450 steel card back in December. Well, they sold it through Guilt, and Guilt is similar to My Habit, but Guilt charges shipping, and it takes you longer to get it. So Guilt is trying to duplicate the Amazon piece, but they cannot get the supply chain properly. Amazon can get it to you for a couple days. There's no shipping. And so Guilt has this shipping blockage that I'm surprised that going after Amazon that they wouldn't remove that shipping out of the way and just build it into the price.
Interesting. Yeah. There's a company, a CEO that we just spoke to on PowerTalk. It was a company called Poshmark, Poshmark. And it's interesting because they're empowering people, but really women, because it's geared towards women's fashion, to liberate their closet. And if I remember correctly, the tagline is, buy your friend's or buy your neighbor's closet. You can effectively snap a photo with your iPhone of clothes that you have, fill out some forms, whatever on your phone, get it posted for a certain dollar amount. If it's very popular, you can go into bidding. And it's enabling people to, instead of having to, take their clothes to up onto Craigslist and crazy fashion, if you will, or some of these others, it becomes very easy to do. You eliminate the pain point, and the reward is that you actually sell stuff.
This is, Chris, the best time to be in businesses now, because we know that people are in pain and they're dying for a solution. Nobody wants to go through what we're going through now. It's unfortunate that we're here, so you have to deal with it. So folks are looking for a solution, but they want it from a trusted person or company. So they're much smarter now. So you can't deliver. You can't say you're going to do something and not deliver on the promise, because they will get you knocked out of business on Twitter within a matter of hours.
Yes.
So
yes.
There's one side that is great to be in business, but it's raising the stakes for those of us who are in the customer side of the business, who're saying we've got to get it right.
Well, let's use that as a springboard, Michael, to get into your book, Fresh Passion: Get a Brand or Die a Generic, because I sense that that's where we're headed, and I think it dovetails well. But when we think about that, they want a trusted person or entity. That, to me, speaks volumes about needing to have not just a brand, but a brand that is recognized, that is trusted, that has a lot of respect.
And it's the reason we haven't become brands, and so much, if you say you have a financial institution or you're helping people with pre-retirement of whatever that might be, is we focus so much on getting the company's image right. We have a nice building, we have some nice brochures, we're spending thousands on advertisement, and then they come in and talk to the main source, you, and that is disconnected from the promises. Because you have to be an integral part of what you promise. It's not about the company and you're removing yourself away from it, because especially in the financial sector, it's a one-on-one relationship. American Express is fantastic. They have some great advisors, but I want to know about Ian on the corner, who's my guy. Can I trust him? I'm not. I only have 10 more years to work. The folks that I get in connection with now, for example, has to be folks who are going to help me get through the next 10 years. I don't want some vague promises. I want to know who it is. Tell me about where they've done this before and what are the results. And oftentimes they're not doing that research when they get in front of you. They're doing that research long before they decide to connect with you.
Oh, not even after. So you're saying, given, let's just say the internet and some other available information, a couple quick Googles and things like that, they are doing their homework in anticipation of the meeting.
I actually wouldn't. I would be afraid of a client who didn't research me. That's a client that is not going to understand where you're trying to take them. It's going to take you longer to educate them, because an educated client will say, I want to come to Mr. Smith because Mr. Smith has a track record of helping folks who are within 10 years of retirement solidifying their financial portfolio. And where they're going to start first is really what kind of conversations are you having in the social community, be it Facebook, be it Twitter, doing a quick search to say, is your name popping up when I say retirement in the next 10 years? Mm-hmm. If that search word is something that you want to tag onto your brand. Where is that the person? And then you're going to dig down a little bit deeper to say, okay, they're on Facebook, but are they giving anything away? Are they giving any advice? Because you have to give away 80% more than what you take in, because you're building a trusted relationship. So you see, okay, Mr. Smith has been on Facebook, for example. He's sending out tweets, and this information is valuable. If he's giving this away for free, I can imagine what I'm going to get from him when I pay him.
Or when I meet him one-on-one.
Exactly. So what kind of trails have you left, or cookie crumbs, or what have you left for free to get people to begin to trust you? And that's what's happening with social media. The reason that people have failed in it, and a lot of companies have failed, is because they've gone too hard for the sale as opposed to having a conversation with people. So
again, when we were talking about customer service, I asked you the question, but I'll repeat it here a little differently. Who in your mind is doing a good job using social media? And it could be Facebook or Twitter, or Instagram or Pinterest or some of these other platforms to really build their brand well. Because I can think of a whole bunch of companies out there, from Papermate to Hershey to Frank's Red Hot, that I see zipping through my Twitter feed.
I look at someone like a Nordstrom's and what they've been able to do with Pinterest. Nothing, I don't want you to buy anything. I'm not going to even put prices. I'm going to create a scrapbook for the spring with all about pink, for example, for ladies. That's all the pictures I'm going to put on there. I don't want you to buy anything. I'm not asking you to buy anything, but I want to give you some tips along with it. So to really begin to give people something for free and to start a dialogue, what they've been able to do with Pinterest, and that's why Pinterest is growing so fast, is because people don't feel like they're being asked to do anything, to make any decisions. I can look at my will. I'm not being bombarded. And I kind of like having this virtual catalog or electronic catalog and not be pressured to make any decisions.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I think most people, as well as, businesses, and we see a lot of activity, it's geared more to Twitter and to Facebook, but not as much to Pinterest as I've seen.
Well, it's the fastest growing site in the country now.
Oh no, I'm not arguing that at all, Michael. I'm just saying that when you hear about a lot of buzz, it's always did you see that? Was it tweeted? Did you tweet it out? Da 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 da. And I think we're hearing more and more about Pinterest. But I guess it begs the question of, if you're building your brand, in your opinion, Michael, is there a better social media platform? Is it Facebook or Pinterest over Twitter, or do you really have to balance all three?
I think what you have to do is you have to start slow. So many folks have everything, and they're not good at any of it. So you have a Twitter, but the last time you posted was in January. You have a Facebook, the last time you posted in December. Begin to get something and go deep. You need to fish deep versus fishing on the peripheral or all of the social medias and not going deep with anything. Because community building takes time. When you look at what's going on with Facebook and you're trying to get fans to like your page, that takes a period of time, and that's going to come with trusted content, posting at the right time, having a dialogue, and getting other people to, friends of their friends, to come to your page and begin to repost that content. So it's better to say, let me get a very specific strategy on social media, get the content that you can simulate across all the platforms as opposed to trying to manage them separately, again, so the brand will stay connected.
Right. Now, I imagine, though, that on the one hand, you would say it's a lot easier for the individual to build their brand today because of some of these platforms. But at the same time, if it's not done well, you could actually, shoot yourself in the foot pretty easily, I would imagine.
I think before you even begin to show the world what brand you have to make sure that it's fully baked, because what you put out there will stay forever. So if somebody Googles you and this month you were the expert on annuities, and next month you were on stocks and bonds, and you're saying that you're the expert there, it creates a level of confusion. So
right.
Once I understand this is a brand that I want to have, I'm good at it, I have the expertise, I'm going deep as opposed to wide across the spectrum, I'm the expert in this area, and now let that message begin to get itself out.
Now, when I was thumbing through your book, Fresh Passion, Get a Brand, or Die a Generic, there were a couple things in there that really jumped out at me, Michael. One was where you have a brand board of advisors.
Love it.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. It's one of the things I've had for many years now, almost 12 years. And a branding board of advisors are really those people who can complement or to adjunct the areas that you're not as strong in. For example, if you're in finance but you're not as good on the communication side, so somebody will be on your board who understands communications. And these are really ambassadors who can help you build that brand, but also that you're depositing, for example, the financial side back into them. So I look at having someone on the finance side, someone on the communication side, someone on social media, someone who's just really a trusted advisor who can just be that person who can just listen to me, but also keep it real to say, Michael, where were you going with that? That makes no sense. That there are no egos there, but that's someone that I can trust. And then there's this person that I call really kind of the fresh and the forward thinker, and that's usually a college student or someone who will be an intern. And that's how I got into social media, was from a college intern who said, you really need to be going on. This is Instagram is where it's going. You need to be looking at this. So it's kind of that balance, so that I can begin to continue to go deep in my area of expertise, but not feel so alone that I have to get all this other stuff right. And I have these other people that I'm invested in, and they're invested in me, and it allows you to grow much faster, and it allows you to get a very solid brand that's going to stay fresh and relevant and competitive.
Now, another thing that you talk about, and I love the twist on it, because a lot of people, they talk about how you have to avoid something negative, and you really don't want a lot of negatives, but in your book, you talk about turning that into a positive.
I think it is some of the worst things or that are perceived as negative are really good. Example, when you have negative people around you, and we always want to avoid kind of negative people and those pessimistic people on our team. They're draining, they cause you a lot of heartache, but they can also represent the voice of a customer. So it's actually free training that they're allowing you to. How do I deal with, because you're going to run across someone like them. So how do you really listen to see, because some of what they're saying is true. We've just kind of turned a deaf ear to it. But one, how do you listen to it, kind of sift through the pieces that you want that you get out of it, and then how do you move them forward beyond that place? Because typically people who are negative have some underlying issues that they just need your help working through. They've just been mishandled. They're not awful people. They've just not been handled in the right way. So the more you can sharpen your skills on how to deal with reality, and negative people are reality, the better you are for your client who comes in to say, I just lost 40%. I'm leaving you tomorrow. I want to fire you because you're not helping me.
Right, right. That's interesting because it's. I mean, you've turned almost dealing with unhappy or negative people into a customer service exercise.
Absolutely, it's a great practice. Great practice.
Well, there's a couple other things that you talk about, and one of them I want to ask is you seem to have this recurring theme of fresh passion, 6.5 fresh steps, and some of your other books include the title, include in the title the word fresh. What is it with you and fresh, Michael?
Fresh is my brand. My brand is fresh results and getting results through with people in a fresh and innovative way. It's about going to the next level. And so many of us, if you think about it, Christopher, have payphone skills for a smartphone world. We're not solving today's problems. We're still stuck back in what we were doing in 95 and 98. So fresh is about what are the pain points that people are going through today, and what do I need to do to be able to deliver to that?
Well, what are, you touched on it earlier about the economic situation. What are some other pain points that, as you see it, consumers are going through and grappling with today?
If you look at it from an adult perspective, in a million years, we never expected our retirement to be upheavaled or upturned by our kids not getting a job after graduating. We thought if we sent them to the best boarding schools, we got them the best tutors, they did fantastic. They got into really good schools, they did fantastic, and they graduated. And we looked at the statistics last year, and the new ones will be out in May. Only 20% of the folks who graduated landed a job. So guess what happened? They needed to come back home with us to live, and that's another $25,000, $30,000 that you didn't anticipate having as an expense.
Right.
So where does that come from? It's going to come from your retirement. It's going to come from someplace until this kid can get moved ahead. So, for example, how do you deal with that issue now? Because we thought we had a plan that we'd move our kids through college, they will be fine.
Right.
So one of the things that I've had to do with adults is to say, how do you help this kid get a brand that they're passionate about? They're not good in chemistry. They're not passionate about being a doctor. I know you wanted a doctor in the family because you could take them to church and you can show them off that you were great parents, that they became doctors. That's not where their passion is. So to be able to listen to your kids today to say, how do we connect your passion to a brand so that you can be competitive in the job market?
Now, it's interesting because you're talking about passion, and I think passion is great. But in the book, you also have used passion as an acronym.
Exactly.
Why don't you walk us through that?
So passion and passion is, again, connecting to really what it is that makes you happy and what it is that you're good at. And if you can get up every day and do this, that's where your passion and when you're working in your passion, you're fully engaged. And anything you're not fully engaged in, you're never going to be exponentially successful in because, you look at 70-80% of the people today go to a job that they absolutely hate. They don't like it.
I did some consulting work at one point for a company, and I won't name them. But it was horrible. I mean, it was, you would have meetings to have meetings. It was just, people at like 10:30, 11 were trying to figure out where they're going for lunch. 4 o'clock, everything started to slow down because, you didn't want to do anything before you had to leave at 5. Mm-hmm. And there was no energy, no enthusiasm.
Nope. And Chris, the danger in that is unemployment is one thing. We're about 8-9%, whatever the 7-8%. The real issue is around people who are underemployed.
Mm-hmm.
Who, again,
the U6 number, yeah.
When you look at this word fresh, because they're kind of stagnated, when things do begin to turn around, their skills are not ready to solve today's problems because they've kind of stayed there. So when we talk about passion, and that acronym is about preparing yourself, do I have the right skills to solve today's problems? Companies are looking for someone who can grow the top and bottom line and do it quickly. There is no training. You do your new hire paperwork on Monday at HR. On Wednesday morning, your boss wants to meet with you to say how much revenue did you bring in.
Right.
And
that might be a little extreme.
Yeah. Okay. The next Wednesday, but yeah, he'll take you to lunch on Wednesday and say, "What's your game plan to bring us more revenue in 30 days?" That's better. So that's the preparing part. Am I getting the right skills? So when I look to say, these are the pains of the organizations that I'm looking at today, do I have the right skills? What's my plan for closing the gaps? The A in passion is about your aspiration. What do you aspire to do? And if you believe it or not, Chris, I talk to people who are 35, 40 years old who say, Michael, I don't know what my aspiration is. I've been living my parents' dreams. I've been living my husband's dreams. My kids just moved out. I'm just trying to figure this out. Like, where am I going? So that's
well, I mean, there's all sorts of books out there, and there's an age-old one, What Color's My Parachute, and some of these other things. But what is the major thing, in your opinion, Michael, that people need to consider when they're trying to figure out what their aspirations are?
Where's my passion?
Okay.
What am I passionate about?
Do people know, do you think?
I think some people struggle with it because if you think about it, Chris, for most of your as growing up as a kid, you did what your parents wanted you to do. They wanted you on Little League, they wanted you in soccer, they wanted you in Boy Scouts, they wanted all these things for you. You started dating and you were trying to please your girlfriend, so you were kind of doing that things. You got married, then it became about your children. I need to dedicate my time to my children. I'm working so that I can provide for my children. And then you go into kind of the adulthood where you're middle aged now, and you're saying, "Wow, I this is not what I like."
Right.
This is not me. So there's never the time, or we're not forced to take the time to say, "Let me connect to my passion." Through that, my family is going to be made the better because I'm going to be more engaged. I'm not going to be angry when I come home. I'm going to be more engaged with the family. I'm going to be excited when I come home. So if the longer you stay disconnected from your passion, the worse it is for you personally, professionally, and economically, because you're never going to maximize your earning potential because you're not fully engaged in it. Okay. At some point, you're going to cut from that. So that's the kind of aspiration and where you're trying to go. And then we go into the S in passion is about staying laser focused. This has been the most difficult time in these last 4 or 5 years when we went through this, as we're going through this economic tsunami, that people got scared. And they lost all track. I mean, you think about it from a financial perspective. When folks had been saving for 25 years, the economy started to scare us to death, and people wanted to take all of their money out to make that brash a decision, and they know better. But it's the ability to stay focused, to say, here's my game plan. I'm not investing today for a wedding that's supposed to happen in May. This is for 20 years, 25 years down the line. I'm in it for the long haul. So once I know my aspiration and where I'm going, how do I stay focused and not get detracted from other things that come my way? And that's happening so much in the job market where people are saying, I know I'm not good in technology, but I'm told you can make a lot of money in there. That's not my game plan. I want to be in management, but I'll just go this route because we're not focused on really, here's my game plan, here's where I want to go, and to say I'm not going to get distracted. And that's what happened to so many of us, the ability to not stay laser focused on where we're trying to go.
Well, you'd be surprised, Michael. The number of people that I see when they're looking at evaluating investments, sometimes people get blown around kind of like a leaf, in the wind. One of the things I like about power trend investing, which I do in my newsletter, is that there's a constant barrage of confirming data out there. You just need to have the right lens on to look for it.
And knowing what am I saving for? What's the end game? Where am I trying to go with this? I said when I got into this that it was going to be for retirement. Well, I'm not going to retire for 20 years, so why am I making a brash decision now?
Totally agree.
To get out. And then the other one is so important for all of us, is to be able to sell your value. So many of us cannot tell you today, and I see this so often, if you just say to someone who's in the job market, why should I hire you? Or if you're a financial advisor and someone says, why should I select you as my advisor? And they will start to regurgitate all the certificates they have, which means nothing to the layperson, and just get the deer in the headlights because they don't understand in 30 seconds how can I communicate why you should invest in me and why you should partner with me. And so many of us, we'll get so sidetracked from it, we'll actually go to a vegetarian convention and try to sell pork. So we're not even selling in the right area.
Well, let me ask you a question, Michael. Why should I hire you?
The reason you should hire me, because the number one reason that people fail in their personal and professional lives is because they don't know how to get results that are fresh and relevant as well as competitive. And in order to do that, you have to become a branded commodity that people know you for. internally, externally, and across the whole social media platform. So that's why you should hire me, is to help you really enhance your brand, take it to the next level, make sure that it's fresh and relevant, and to be able to position you for success.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say you've had that question asked before.
Well, of course you think. but I can tell you the foundation is there, but the answer is never the same, because I need to understand the pain of what my clients are going
through. That's right.
So that I can understand what I'm selling. I'm not trying to sell them meat and they're vegetarians.
So let's talk about invigorating yourself.
This is the piece, and we talked about that kind of in the whole when the whole stock market kind of went crazy. Is we have really began, because we're in so much pain, to outsource our happiness to someone else. And what they're able to do when you do that is, when you give them that valuable real estate space in your head, Chris, is they can foreclose on you, they can short sell on you, they can put you out. But we don't have the ability sometimes to look internally to say, I really like who I've become. I don't like what I've become, but here's what I'm doing to work on it. We're dependent on our spouse to do that, and that's a whole other subject, and that's what causes a lot of pain in our personal relationships, is that we come home at the end of the day and we want our husband, our wives, to be the cheerleader for us. Well, if she's down as well or he's down as well, nobody's in a cheering spirit. So you have to have kind of that ability internally to say, I'm having a bad day. I don't want my clients to receive this in. I need to snap out of this in 30 seconds and get going with it. Life is going to be okay. And to be able to have that mental ability and to believe in yourself is so important, because it will come across crystal clear to a client when you're shaky.
Now, I hear what you're saying there, and when I look at the list of these different letters, if you will, in passion, it seems to me that the next one can be the hardest, which is omitting the negative, because everybody gets down. And as you talked about earlier, sometimes, particularly in a bad environment or a bad economic situation, it's easy to be negative.
I think when we talked about earlier, when you look at it from the perspective to say, what lesson am I to learn from this experience? And if you think about every negative experience you've had, or 90% of the negative experiences you had, there was a lesson that you actually were able to build on to make a better decision on the next go around.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't give it all the weight that negative, this is something that's negative, this is happening, it's the end of the world, to say it happened, I'm going to take the learnings from it. It's going to help me with my next decision, so you don't put as much weight on it and you keep it moving.
Okay. And then the end?
The nail in the brand is about putting the whole package together. You think about, for example, on Godiva, or Tiffany's or any of those. We really don't know what's inside of the box. It's really the packaging that gets people excited. So what they see on the outside has to get them to make that initial purchasing decision, that initial investment in you as a client. And if you already know, because you're authentic and you have integrity, that once they open the box, that the inside is just as good as what the outside world looks like, i.e. social media, the brochures, the building, all of that stuff is kind of putting it all together, the passion, the aspiration, being able to sell it, and how does it look to the outside world when they make that initial purchasing decision. It's about packaging, and what does that look like, and how does it invoke someone to make a decision.
So when someone's working on their packaging, what's the hardest part? And if there's any, not to default to companies, but if there's any companies who have turned their packaging around, so to speak, who's done a good job of that, so people can think about a great success indicator?
If you look at something as simple as Frito-Lay potato chips, there's not a day you go into the grocery store that there's not something new there or innovative, or the color, the invitation, in terms of the namings that they're using. I think I saw one the other day that was buffalo wings dipped in ranch sauce. Now, I don't know how you take all of that and make it into a potato chip, but they managed to do it, and I wanted to get it. I'm like, I don't have to eat the meat, but I can get the same taste in a bag.
Yeah, I saw one, I think, was chicken and waffles.
So,
and I have to admit, I was a little intrigued. I didn't buy them, but I was intrigued.
So I think that's the whole piece around, let me get you, as Frito-Lay, we know that we're a good brand, but people have had us for so long. We need to stay fresh and relevant, and we need to continue to package that Frito-Lay brand in a way that people say there's something new. I want to see what's coming out next.
Well, it's funny because there's a list of a couple things that you challenge us to do in the book on page 13. And some of them are, some of them we've heard before. Think different, be different, do different, see different. But it was the last one, and we're starting to talk about it now, but I really want to focus on it before we get out of here, is brand different. And the reason that struck me is it seems to me that a lot of people, a lot of companies, and sometimes products too, don't really know who their brand is, right? So for the individual, you first have to figure out what your brand is, and then you have to figure out how you can be different with it. So it seems a little bit of a challenge for the average person.
I think it's about looking at how can you solve the pain point differently. You look at it, for example, we were talking about the financial piece. How many folks are bringing in the whole family into the equation? And to really, because when you think about from a financial piece, if I'm going in for a financial assessment, it's really about where I am numerically speaking. That's what you want to know. You want to know where are my dollars, where are my cents, what's my goals, what's my aspirations. There's nothing to deal with kind of all the other stuff that I'm dealing with that's helping me make bad financial decisions. So to have a component, and for example, if I'm a financial advisor, to say, I care about you as the whole person, not just the financial aspect of your life, but I know that the financial aspect of your life is being hindered or being blocked by some other parts that's going into your life. So it's almost a psychology piece of it, because now you have someone who's saying, this guy really understands me and my family.
Right.
That's about being branded differently, for example.
Okay. Now, the risk you say, though, is if we don't get a brand, we're going to die a generic.
Absolutely. Who wants to deal with a generic in these times? You don't have the money, you don't have the time or the resources. You want a proven solution, and you want to know who have you done it for, how did you do it for them, and can you duplicate it for me, and show me how you duplicated the success. I don't have time. I don't have time for a generic. And if I have time for a generic, I'm going to try it temporarily because I don't have the finances. I'm going to expect less from it, but 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to reinvest in it. It's out of a period of I cannot get exactly what I want. I'll take this for a temporary piece, and typically you'll get worked even harder because people, when they pay less, they also want more from you, and to get more in return, even though they paid a lower price for it. So you don't even want to operate in that space. You want to tell people, focus on how I'm going to solve your problem and take you to a different level and the level that you want to go through, and price will never be a discussion. I have never, and I can tell you, I go to Starbucks hundreds of times a year, for example, never heard anyone complain about the price.
No, never. I was there today, and I didn't hear anything about that at all. I don't think I've ever heard anybody even raise the question.
No, it isn't. They raise the price, and nobody says a word, and it's literally, if you have to go into Starbucks with a $5 bill, and nobody says a word. But they will complain about gasoline if it goes up 2 pennies. Why is that?
That is so spot on.
Yeah.
That is so spot on. Well, Michael, you've been really generous with our time, and I know we're kind of ticking down the clock. And the book is fantastic, and I would really recommend people get it. Again, Fresh Passion, Get a Brand or Die a Generic. Is there anything that we didn't touch on when it comes to customer service, building your brand, or really anything else that we should talk about before we get out of here?
Chris, I'm a big believer in giving back, and I'm so happy to do it. And a couple things that people can do. Your listeners can go to myfreshbrand.com. Some great information on there, but I would challenge them. There are 52 tips that they can get for free that will walk you through kind of building that brand from start to finish. Freshcustomerservice.com has another piece on there that gives you the 52 tips on how to take your customer service to the world-class level. So myfreshbrand.com and freshcustomerservice.com, valuable resources. Happy to have folks reach out and see if we can go to the next level. Other folks have done it and can't see why your brand can't be positioned and your customer service can't be positioned to solve the pains that are present today and into the next 15, 20 years.
Well, I'm hoping people will not only go there and get the book, but I also imagine, Michael, I should say imagine, in fact, I know you are, but you're on Twitter, aren't you?
Of course.
And your handle is?
My handle is D. Michael Brown. On Facebook is Fresh Michael D. And we're blogging, and we're on LinkedIn, and we're on Pinterest. So
Wait a minute. What was that on Facebook again?
Fresh Michael D.
Are you rapping as well?
Well, here's the thing. I'll tell you a really, really funny story. A lady called me enraged, and I think she was starting to post about me because somehow her claim was denied, and she was supposed to get a new home, and that I had denied her claim, and she was going to tell the whole world how no good I was. Well, she was confusing me with Michael D. Brown from FEMA. So we had to do something drastically different to be able to separate ourselves from, because he's Michael D. Brown as well.
Well, yeah, well, the hang up with some email locations as well as Twitter is that there are so many people out there and only so many characters. So it can be a struggle to be to be fresh, if you will.
Yeah. So that's it. Fresh Michael D. Brown, and of course, Fresh is the brand, and Michael D. is the name, and so we're happy to help and be of service. So we appreciate the time that you've given us, and happy to share with your listeners there.
Oh, Michael, thank you very much for joining us here on PowerTalk. The goal with PowerTalk, as I always say, is to take the listeners behind the scenes and in the know. And I have to say, I think you've given us a number of things to think about, as well as shared a number of insights regarding Starbucks and some other companies. So my pleasure to have you. Look forward to speaking again.
All right, folks, that's another Power Talk for this week. My thanks to Michael D. Brown for joining me this week, and be sure to check out his new book, Fresh Passion, Get a Brand or Die a Generic, wherever you buy or download your books today. I'm your host, Chris Versace. Be sure to check out chrisversace.com for my Power Trend updates, and I'll see you back here next week with another Power Talk that takes you behind the scenes and in the know.